Pen turned away from the window and stamped her foot. "I asked you to come over today because I need your help with Captain Swift. I expect him to arrive at any time." Cass sucked in her breath. Captain Swift? Julian? Arriving at any time? She smoothed her hair, sat up a bit straighter, and tugged on the ends of both her gloves. Captain Julian Swift was the man to whom Penelope was nearly betrothed. He was also the most perfect, handsome, wonderful gentleman in the entire world, and Penelope didn't even want him. Julian had been severely wounded at Waterloo and had spent the last 3.5 months recuperating. He'd nearly died, and Cass had been alternately praying for him and writing to him, while Pen didn't seem to care much one way or the other. Cass had known that Julian was expected to return from the continent any day now. She just hadn't quite expected it to be today. She gulped. Without looking at her, Lucy quietly moved her hand over and squeezed Cass's. "I don't think she meant that Captain Swift is expected right now, dear," she whispered. Cass let her shoulders relax a bit. Lucy knew how much Julian meant to Cass. She'd always known. It wasn't that Cass had any intention of taking her cousin's intended, never that. Why, that would be detestable. She merely wanted to see him. Just once, to ensure that he truly was alive and well. And then she would let him go, wish him and Pen well on their nuptials, and try her best not to think of him again. Not like that, at least. Perhaps she'd join a convent. A sigh escaped her lips. Pen shook her head at Lucy. "No, you're wrong. That's exactly what I mean. I expect him to arrive quite literally at any moment." Cass pressed her hand against her throat. "I cannot breathe." Lucy half turned to pat Cass's knee through her skirts. "You'll be fine, darling." She pointed a finger toward Pen. "Just a moment. You're saying you called your cousin over here on the same day Captain Swift is expected to arrive to tell her something about a young lady who doesn't even exist?" Pen nodded, her fat brown curls bobbing against her equally plump cheeks. "Yes." Cass still struggled for breath. Julian was coming, expected at any moment. Her mind couldn't process the information. She'd been waiting for this for so long, imagined it, dreamed about it. But now that it was here, she was in a panic. If she were the type of young lady who swooned, surely she would have swooned by now. Thank heaven for small favours. At least she wasn't a swooner. Her gaze dropped to her clothing. Why had she worn this unremarkable light blue gown? It had seemed lovely enough when she'd picked it out this morning, but now it just seemed drab. Her hand flew to her coiffure. Why had she allowed her maid to fix her hair in such a plain fashion, a mere band around her head? It wasn't sufficient to greet Julian. Oh, it was all wrong indeed. "Take a deep breath, dear," Lucy whispered from beside her. Cass did just that. She was dizzy. That was a sign of imminent swooning, was it not? Oh, good heavens. Perhaps she was a swooner after all. Anyone might become a swooner given the correct set of circumstances, mightn't they? Her mind raced. Her palms were sweaty, as were her underarms. Oh, wonderful. She would see Julian for the first time in 7 years, smelling like a barnyard animal. She sniffed at her sleeve. "Isn't that right, dear?" Lucy asked, turning to her. Cass froze. "Pardon?" She hadn't heard a word the other two ladies had said. She worried her bottom lip. "I was just telling your cousin here that I believe she owes you some sort of explanation for all of this." Pen plunked her hands on her hips. "That's what I've been trying to tell you." "Then out with it, dear, and do try to be a bit more clear this time," Lucy retorted. Pen took a deep breath. "Captain Swift will be here at any moment, and I need you to greet him, Cass, and tell him all about Patience." Cass blinked at her cousin. Now she was entirely certain she was on the verge of a hysterical fit. Why was Pen babbling on about some non-existent young lady when Julian was about to walk through the front door at any moment? "What about Patience?" Cass nearly shouted at her cousin. She clapped her hand over her mouth at her impertinence. She took a deep breath and shook her head. That is to say,